Exciting times to talk about business. It is Business 360, and my name is Blyden Ukem. In Business 360 today, we'll look at some of the biggest stories in the world of business. One of it being from the stock market. The European stock market will also x-ray the very fine details regarding the Nigerian stock market, the African stock market point of view, and key elements regarding the commodities as well as the forex market. We'll begin the business conversation from here. Rolls-Royce has announced plans to axe up to 2,500 jobs globally to create a more efficient and effective company. It is the first major move by Tufan Eric Bijak, who on becoming chief executive in January, described Rolls-Royce as a burning platform. The company, which makes engines for aircraft, is based in Derby. It employs 42,000 people around the world, with about half based in the UK. It was hit hard, was grounded for months. Rolls-Royce did not give details of where the job cuts will fail and fall, but reports have suggested that hundreds of back office posts will be affected in the UK. Still on business on the foreign scene. China is throwing a huge party to celebrate one of its biggest experiments in engaging with the world, its Belt and Road Initiative BRI. Officials and leaders from all over the globe are in Beijing attending a high-level summit marking the BRI's 10th anniversary. Russian President Vladimir Putin and Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban have arrived, and the Taliban government will also attend. A signature policy of President Xi Jinping, the BRI is aimed at stitching China closer to the world through investment and infrastructure projects. With an unprecedented glut of cash pumped into nearly 150 countries, China boosts it has transformed the world. 180 leaders from Africa, South America, and other emerging markets are gathering in China. Denis Sassou Nguesso of the DR Congo, Ethiopia's Abiy Ahmed, and Nigeria's Kashim Shettima arrived Monday, October 16 in Beijing. Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe, Papua New Guinean Prime Minister James Marape, and Cambodian Prime Minister Hong Manet. The summit kicks off today, October 17th, the Third Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation. Good news from China and China. Humanitarian aid is stuck at the Gaza-Egypt border as Israeli siege strains hospital and water supply. The World Health Organization said assistance for 300,000 patients was currently awaiting entry through Rafah. On the Gaza side of the crossing, a crowd of Palestinians with dual citizenship awaited anxiously. The concerns continue. Let's find out more. In Africa, Kenya leads Africa in deployment of mini-grids. It has led to employment in the country. Mini-grids will become more and more crucial in bridging the energy access gaps that still exists, especially in isolated rural regions. Around 500 mini-grid installations were present in sub-Saharan Africa in 2010. Mini-grids are pivotal for bridging energy gaps in rural Africa. Kenya is at the forefront of African mini-grid deployment, as reported by IRENA's 2023 review. Mini-grid projects like the GMG facility in Kenya are generating jobs in the country. Now to Uganda and Democratic Republic of Congo. Uganda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo have agreed to reciprocally eliminate visa requirements, allowing visa-free travel between the two countries. The East African bloc is looking to eliminate visa restrictions among its member states. Our President Museveni's long-standing campaign for visa-free travel with DR Congo has become a reality, benefiting both nations and East African integration. In Nigeria, the federal government of Nigeria has unveiled a proposed 26 trillion naira, an equivalent of $34 billion, in the budget for 2024 fiscal year. This contrasts the current 21.8 trillion naira budget, which was approved under the previous administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. The federal government's financial projection for the 2024 budget rely on the assumed oil price of $73.96 and an exchange rate of 700 naira per dollar. Still in Nigeria, the naira is now under pressure according to the International Monetary Fund, and Nigeria is free to request for a loan from the fund to stabilize the country. However, the Washington-based lender acknowledged that other actions made by the Nigerian government, including recent currency changes, were appropriate. It also endorsed the Central Bank of Nigeria's decision last week to lift an 8-year foreign exchange embargo on 40 additional imports, including cement, rice, and poultry products. The forex embargo was enacted by the previous CBN government in 2015. The IMF said the naira was still under pressure and inflation in Nigeria was still high, coming in at 26% in August. The IMF's assessment was given during the World Bank Group and International Monetary Fund meeting in Marrakesh, Morocco. Still on the federal government. The federal government has announced its readiness to commence the payment of 9 months backlogs to Empower beneficiaries beginning from November. It announced this on Monday through the Empower National Program Manager, Akindele Ekpuwalo. Ekpuwalo, in a statement issued by the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, stated that the main purpose for the temporary suspension of the program was to address all matters directly affecting beneficiaries. He said that the temporary suspension of the program was for thorough restructuring and forensic audits, and that the funds had been recovered from the existing payment system and service providers. Still in Nigeria, regarding electricity distribution. Electricity distribution companies through the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission (NEC) have warned the federal government that failure to settle its electricity bills totaling 25 billion naira may result in its facility, Ajaokuta Steel Corporation, being disconnected from the national grid. This was contained in the newly released 2022 NEC's annual report. As of 31st December 2022, NEC said the firm's total debt to Nigeria Bulk Electricity Trading and the market operator stood at about 23 billion naira and 2 billion naira respectively, marking and making a total of about 25 billion naira. Meanwhile, the federal government says it has destroyed a substantial quality and quantity of seized wildlife products, including pangolin scales alongside leopard, python and crocodile skins, for the first time in its history. It said this marked a significant step towards combating wildlife trafficking and protecting the nation's biodiversity. The incineration event took place in Abuja, with representatives from various government agencies, local and international environmental NGOs, and wildlife conservations, and their experts in attendance. The National Environmental Standard and Regulations Enforcement Agency, in collaboration with the element The Elephant Protection Initiative Foundation, with support from the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crimes, methodically reduced a total of 3,914.08 kg, nearly 4 tons, of seized pangolins scales. Here we'll go on a short break. When we return, we'll look at global economy, economic statistics, and the ordinances of it. Don't go anywhere.
Before the conflict in the Middle East, the price of crude oil was in a pretty convincing correction lower. From the cycle highs on September 28th to the low close on October 5th, WTI crude oil futures at the CME Group had fallen 13.39%. You could point to any number of reasons for this drop, but it was likely a mix of many factors. From global purchasing managers' indexes remaining in contraction territory, to construction spending and industrial production measures disappointing, much of the global economic data, except for the labor data, has shown weakness. International interest rates have been rising, affecting housing and commercial construction, and we are entering the slowest part of the season for crude oil demand. On top of that, this past week's EIA report showed U.S. exports, production, fuel demand, and refinery activity all pointing to a loosening of the previously tight supply-demand relationship. Then the Middle East tensions took center stage, and a full 6.6% of that price drop was erased. The supply situation will likely be volatile in the coming weeks, but it will decide the next sustained move in crude oil prices.
Well, moving to global economy, after looking at geopolitical volatility as it shakes oil market, let's talk about a global economy and the standings within the world of business. Beginning with UK, as UK wage growth slows. Regular pay, which excludes bonus payment in the UK, went up 7.8% year-on-year to £619 per week in the 3 months to August of 2023. Below an upwardly revised 7.9% rise in the previous period, which was a record high rate and in line with expectations. It is the first decline in regular wage growth since January, and wages in the private sector rose 8%, below 8.1% in the previous period, while in the public sector, wages rose 6.8%. Meanwhile, wage growth in real terms, which is adjusted for inflation, rose 1.1%. Quickly, let's move to the chart indicating United Kingdom's average earnings excluding bonuses year on year. The chart this morning in the UK, according to Office for National Statistics, has indicated that as at October 2022, it stood at 6.1%, even moving higher to 6.7% and 6.6% by January this year. But wage growth has been on the high, increasing peak to 7.3% in April 2023 and even up to 7.9% by July, before a slight slowdown of 7.8% in the UK. Looking at global statistics in Africa, Nigeria's inflation rate. Nigeria's annual inflation rates continue to accelerate to reach an over 18-year high of 26.7% in September 2023, up from August 25.8%, mainly attributed to second-round effects of the removal of an old petroleum subsidy and the devaluation of the naira against the greenback on both the official and parallel markets. Inflation is the rate at which prices for goods and services rise. Prices of food, which is the most relevant in the consumer price index basket, jumped to 30.6% in September, the highest since August 2005, from 29.3% in the prior month, also linked to security issues in food-producing regions. Additionally, upward pressure came from transportation, housing and utilities, and miscellaneous goods and services. Quickly, let's look at the charts indicating Nigeria's inflation rate this morning. According to statistical report from the National Bureau of Statistics in Nigeria, October 20 to 21.82% and at 22.22% by April 2023. Inflation, which reflects a high cost of commodities and standard of living in the country and a weakness of the naira, went to 24.08% by July 2023 and 26.72%, a record 18-month high in Nigeria and quite concerning. It would be a good time to talk about the commodity market now, and looking at the indices within the commodity market. Bob Isino is standing by to give outlook regarding the United States Department of Agriculture's yield record, and they say it's a major downgrade revision for U.S. corn and soybeans. Let's find out more.
Every month, the USDA releases a report titled World Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimates. These reports become especially critical as the summer months wrap up and the USDA focuses on yield as harvest evolves through fall. The October report showed a 0.4% reduction in yield for corn and a 1% reduction in soybean yield. While those adjustments may seem insignificant, they equate to 70 million bushels of lost corn production and 42 million bushels of lost soybean production. USDA also revises demand estimates addressing issues such as the low water levels currently seen at the Mississippi River and the impact it's had in reducing agricultural export volume. USDA reduced expected corn and soybean export demand by 25 and 30.
Quickly, let's move to the agricultural market this morning and see what the prices are, the price of soybeans and other agricultural commodities. And afterwards, we'll look at the metal market. According to standings from the agricultural commodities, a soybean price is upward by 2.75 points this morning. Percentage appreciation, $1,289 per bushel. Wheat price slightly downward by 4.6 points. Lumber downward by 5 points. Palm oil dropping 7 points this morning. 3,773 Malaysian ringgit per ton is the price of palm oil. And now to the metal markets. The price of metal commodities, gold. Gold price is upward by 2.75 points, a 0.13 percentage appreciation, $1,921 per ounce. A silver, a slight gain this morning, and copper price dropping slightly downward this morning, a $3.54 per pound for copper, and steel price gaining 62 points, 3,651 Chinese yuan per ton is the price of steel. Let's look at the energy market. The price of U.S. crude oil is $87 per barrel, gaining slightly this morning, though the volatility level of the market is quite low, a 0.445 point mark. For Brent, which is Nigeria's price benchmark, the current price is $90 per barrel, gaining 0.589 points. Natural gas, gasoline, heating oil, a little here, a little there. And to industrial commodities. The industrial market indicates a huge fall for bitumen this morning, 3,808 Chinese is the price of bitumen, dropping 132 points, a negative 3.35% decline. Cobalt, no significant difference in the market. Lead price has no significant change in the market. Aluminum price downward by 7.5 points, $2,173, while tin is gaining 155 points and zinc dropping 35 points. Now into the foreign exchange market. Looking at the Israeli currency. The Israeli shekel continued to approach 4 per US dollar, the weakest level since 2015, and has lost nearly 3.9% since October 7th, when Hamas attacked Israel and the country began its retaliatory strikes. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pledged to continue the fight with neither limitations nor respite until the objectives are achieved, and Israel is expected to launch a ground incursion into the Gaza Strip. Last week, the central bank adopted measures to support the currency, including selling up to $30 billion of foreign currency in the open market, the first intervention in about 2 years and the first ever sale of foreign exchange. Prior to the Hamas attack, the shekel was already under pressure as Prime Minister Netanyahu was set to follow through with measures that weakened the country's judiciary system, despite a series of protests earlier in the year. Quickly, let's look at FX update this morning. As top currency losers are the New Zealand dollar at a negative 0.575%, Mexican peso negative 0.54%, and British pound negative 0.5%. In addition to the top gainers and losers, there was a slight change on the dollar index, a 0.21% gain, while Japanese yen fell a negative 0.11% and the euro negative 0.21%. And quickly to the market, let's see the price of the euro against the US dollar and afterwards Naira's perspective. The euro against the US dollar this morning keeps its price on the negative 0 point mark, 0.0076 points, a negative 0.07%. The pound against the US dollar Naira's perspective then, 764 Naira equaling $1 in the morning market. At the close of yesterday's market, the euro against the Naira stood at 816 Naira to the euro, gaining 7.4. The euro gaining 7.4 points over the Naira, a 0.92% gain. The pound to the Naira, 943 Naira equals £1. A gain for the euro over the Naira of 9.34 points, a 1% gain in the market at the closure of yesterday's market. And quickly, let's look at the parallel market for the Naira, what the black market says. And dollar to Naira, our current price at the buying rate is 1,048 Naira equaling $1. And the selling rate is 1,040 Naira to the dollar. When we talk about pounds to Naira, the exchange rate is 1,283 Naira to the pound. At the buying rate and selling rate, 1,268 Naira to the pound. The euro to Naira indicates 1,095 Naira equaling €1 at the buying rate and selling rate 1,080 Naira. Now quickly, let's look at the cryptocurrency market and what the standings are for the digital coin. The cryptocurrency market indicates Bitcoin dropping 21 points this morning, $28,993, a negative 0.07%. On a weekly basis, it's been a gain of 3.65% for Bitcoin. Ether gaining slightly this morning, but the volatility of the market is quite low. Looking at the global stock market. European equity markets were little changed today, with both Frankfurt DAX 40 and the Pan-European Stock 600 hovering near the flat line, as investors turned their attention to corporate earnings report while keeping a close eye on development in the Middle East. On the corporate front, a telecom equipment maker Ericsson reported a decline in the third quarter and its revenue due to a drop in demand for 5G equipment in North America, saying it expected the uncertainty impacting its mobile network business to persist into 2024. Meanwhile, miner Rio Tinto reported an increase in the quarterly output across its copper and aluminum portfolios, while engineering firms Rolls-Royce confirmed it plans to cut up to 2,500 jobs throughout its business. Quickly, let's look at the German stock market index DE40 and what the standings are in the market. And after that, we'll also look at the state of the African stock market. S&P also gaining this morning, and the Siemens are dropping negative 0.3 points, and the Deutsche Telecoms are gaining slightly this morning, but the volatility level of the market is quite low. The African stock market also has its perspective this morning. Let's look at the stock market in Africa. Nigerian stock gaining 92 points this morning, a 0.14% gain. The A40 South African stock are on the negative, dropping 526 points, and it's standing, while the Nairobi stock market, Nairobi 20, dropping 7 points. And look at the Nigerian stock market today, what the outlook is. Dangote Cement on the front foot and gaining 0.90 kobo rather this morning. For Bois Cement is a slight decline in the price of 7 Naira 80 kobo, and Saplat Energy losing 104 Naira this morning. And here we draw the curtain on today's edition of Business 360. Thank you for being a part of it. My name is Blyden Ogem.